Something in life can really come unexpected. How a normal routine life can get disturbed by some misery, and how forces above us sometimes enforce things on us. Well, in Dr. Maria Harrison's story, we see how people above you can be evil, but your good deeds and hard work still manages to break the chains of suffering. Stay tuned to find out what happened in this story. Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to talk about how a doctor's simple routine surgery turned her life upside down. This is the story of Dr. Maria Harrison. Dr. Maria Harrison, who was a neurosurgeon, just finished her surgery. She was in her office trying to relax after a tiring surgery, listening to some music. Although it was like all other neurosurgeries that she had preformed, but today, Dr. Maria's mind was occupied with thoughts about the results and recovery of her patient. Today's surgery, reminded of her father, was also a neurosurgeon. She never wanted to become a doctor. Her dream was to be a violinist, but due to her father's pressure, she had to opt this profession. Sudden death of her father after a surgery. She was no regular doctor like all of her colleagues who were mere butchers. She was a different person. She was one who actually cared for her patients and remained concerned about their post-operational recovery and therapy. All these years, she has seen many cases. The success and failure both come hand in hand, but the pain and suffering of patients left deep impression on her mind and soul. Yet she remained compassionate to her patients and never shown a single sign of discomfort. She turned to be a dedicated person towards her profession. But after every surgery, there is a streak of discomfort in mind. She used to pray to God, "Please change this life and make it less suffocating." Still, she was a dedicated doctor and did lots of successful surgeries, yet she felt that something was just missing in her life. The night she had an intuition, somehow something was coming, and that was a reality that something was actually coming right in her face, which was going to swipe her feet of the ground. The sky was dark. The crescent moon was peeping through the curtains of windows. The lamp started to flicker. Suddenly there was someone at her door. It was her assistant, Elle. It was an emergency. An 8-year-old girl who had several bursts on her body, and a glass was smashed into her head, and she was physically abused. Her mother and her older brother had brought her to the hospital. They were also badly injured, but were not in a bad condition as her. Although her mother was also in critical condition, and her injuries were quite noticeable, but still the hospital was just worried to get the papers signed and have their inquiries done. They were not bothered about their patient. Her condition was getting worse and worse. Dr. Maria didn't care about the hospital's management or anyone. She stood in front of everyone and said in loud and clear words that, "Right now, her patient is in need, so step aside, sir." Everyone, even her head doctors and other higher authorities, were shocked to see her as she pulled her gurney in the operation theater. The surgery had begun on behalf of Dr. Maria. She was now taking all the responsibility of not only her career, but also of all the policies and laws. They had already lost too much blood, but by some miracle all her organs were still working, although there was a clot that was starting to develop in her brain. Due to Maria's presence of mind, it was quickly taken under control. The clot was removed successfully. She had some scars and bruises on her stomach and also on her genitals, but they were successfully treated. The operation was a success, but she was still unconscious. That worried Dr. Maria a lot. She had reached to the conclusion that if she doesn't wake up, then she will be in coma. Even though they had removed the clot, but still her brain had some damages that could cause her a state of coma for her entire life. She was worried about her patient by that point. The hospital management was only worried about the reputation of the hospital. A meeting was called and they took decision. If the girl gained her consciousness back, they shall avail it the hospital marketing purposes and gain good name and reputation. On the other hand, if she remains in coma, they will fire Dr. Maria. They gave her a month's time, but they didn't know that the problems were just beginning. On the other hand, Maria was there in the ward trying her best to revive her patient when someone had burst open the door. It was an angry-looking man who was about 50. He was well-dressed, yet the expressions and the looks on his face clearly said that he was going to kill Maria. He was the stepfather of that little girl. He shouted at Maria in a loud voice that she ruined his daughter's life by not treating her well. Maria said to the man that, "Lower your voice, we are in a ward," but the man kept on shouting. Maria called the security. He called the police and asked for the management. The management tried to explain how she tried saving his daughter and the results will be shown soon. They also disclosed that the Dr. Maria took all responsibility on herself. She didn't even let us sign all the forms and fill up the documents. He filled a case against her. Hearing this, Maria was terrified, even though her senior doctor tried explaining to the man till the last moment that she tried her best, but he called the police. Maria handed over the responsibility of her patient to her senior doctor and assistant. She was just able to say this one word to the doctor and assistant that take good care of her. The police arrived and took the poor Maria away. The man had put several charges of not doing the surgery correctly and not doing the formalities properly, which got her license canceled and also got her sentenced to jail, where she would stay until her lawyer or a miracle of God would help her. In the prison, she intermixed less. She was rather a reserved type. In the beginning, the inmates bother her a lot. Later, they stopped bothering her. She prayed to God in the prison day and night. As her time in the prison was passing, she started to reflect upon her life, how she lost her mother and her father raised her by himself. He had a lot of expectations from her. He always supported her passion for music and let her learn violin and piano. He always wanted her to be a doctor like him, although her father had died a long time ago, but still she was fulfilling his expectations. She knew that her license as a surgeon was canceled and her career as surgeon is finished. Now she wants to live up her passion, which was of a musician, but she first needed to get out of this prison and earn her respect back. It had been 6 months, but she had not heard any news of her patient. Nobody had contacted her, but she didn't care anymore. A lot of things were reviled to her. She was still worried about that girl. One day, out of nowhere, there came an unexpected visit. She wondered who could it be. She was at first a bit hesitant about this visit. She came to know that this visitor had helped in taking back her charges that were held by the madman. She got anxious to meet this person. When she met this man, it was Mr. John, the real father of that little girl. This man told Maria that he was the real father of her patient, whose name was Claire, his daughter, and she was fine now. His stepdad again took her with him. He told Maria that he was an abusive man. He was an influential man, so no one uttered a word in front of him. Kept you in jail for a long time for a reason that he had bribed the hospital for not proving you innocent. My son is the eyewitness of whole crime, and he claimed that my son had done it. Since he is still a minor, he was sentenced to juvenile. I have came up with a plan in order to get him out. He is innocent, and get the real evil in his right place. Maria was quite uncertain why this strange man was giving her all this information, but when she heard from his mouth that I need your help to succeed this plan, she had known that she had a big part in it. It was simple, for Mr. John was a lawyer. He took the case to the higher court and pled for not guilty. Her senior doctor and assistant stood in her favor in the court and provided the latest report of the little girl who was doing fine. The court dismissed the allegations and let Maria go free. That shining day came. Everyone was there at the court. Mr. John, his evidence, Maria, Claire, the little girl, and her mother Stella, and Mr. Kevin, the stepfather. The hearing began. Stella, his ex-wife, started to prove evidence in the favor of Mr. Kevin. She tried to turn the tables, but Mr. John had still saved his one witness. Mr. John asked for Claire as a witness and reveal the truth to the court. Mr. Kevin's lawyers stood against it, but the incident had happened with her, said Mr. John. She told the court about that night. I saw my dad abuse my mother since my brother is against our stepdad. He was not even there. I saw what Kevin did to my mother. I saw everything behind the door, but I accidentally made a sound. He dragged me into his room where he abused me and hit me. He asked me to keep my mouth shut or he will kill my brother. Today he again threatened me and my mother of brutal consequences. She added that if that night Dr. Maria and my brother would not saved me, I wouldn't be alive right. That revealed everything. Mr. Kevin was giving a lifetime sentence of rigorous punishment, and fine must be paid to Claire, her elder brother, and Dr. Maria for manipulating, abuse, torture, and threats. Mr. John was giving the full custody of his kids. Ms. Stella was still allowed to meet her kids. Dr. Maria Harrison was giving her license back as a surgeon, and the management of the hospital was fined and pay an amount of compensation to Dr. Maria.